Hey guys, Average Camper here. Welcome to another video, and welcome back to my 4 subscribers. I'm sure you're anxiously awaiting another video. Today I'm going to be covering my truck tent build, or at least we'll be getting started on it. So let's get right into it. What I started out on here is I started out with a couple regular 2x4s. They're cut at 6 feet long. They overhang the bed by just a little bit. That's because I needed to get past the bed rails a little bit because it's a 5-foot bed, and I'm going to need a little bit of space to sleep in this thing. So went a little bit long with these. They're 6 feet long. Up front they are attached with a clothesline hook. Yeah, it looks like this. It's right off the shelf at Home Depot. Nothing special. Now, one thing I did here is I bought these too short. These are 6 inches, and for this truck, to get that to hook into the stake pocket where I wanted it to, I needed something a little bit longer. So what I did is I went ahead and cut the hook off the end of this so that I could make that fit. If I had it to do over again, I'd just buy like a 7. I think you can get a 7 1/4 inch clothesline hook from Home Depot, a couple bucks. Alright, up front is it's a C-clamp, a 4-inch C-clamp from Home Depot also. It's a Husky brand. It looks just like this one I have laying here on my bed. It's nothing special, nothing fancy. I found that was the best thing to hold this down solid. So if you can see that, the light's a little funny from my view. It's upside down, so it is in like that, and just tighten down, and the whole thing's pretty solid. I think I can drive with these installed. Alright, so the idea here is to build 4 supports, 1 up front, 1 in the rear, 1 in the middle. Did I say 4? I meant 3. 3 supports. And originally they were going to be 2x3s, but when I got to Home Depot, they didn't have a very good selection of 2x3s, and didn't want to wait around, so I just bought 2x4s. So what I did here is I laid out the width of the 2x4s when I put them on the truck. I laid those out with some blue masking tape, and I just built this truss. I'm calling it a truss. That's a tent support, I guess. And I built that to the width of the masking tape, and you can see how I've attached this together. It's attached with a piece of plywood that I cut out with a jigsaw with some decking screws, nothing too fancy. And I went and I took this right side back apart again so that we could look at the angles here. Every angle cut on this is 22.5 degrees. So this piece here, this angle right here, 22.5 degrees, 22.5 degrees on this side, and 22.5 degrees on the top. Alright, now on the top here, I wanted this to come apart so I could carry these apart, because if they're put together, I don't believe they'll fit in my truck. Lengthwise, I'd have to leave the tailgate open. I didn't want to do that. So I went ahead and attached one side of this plywood with decking screws, and the other side is going to be attached with bolts. Now let me explain that, because I'm using a lot of these. I put 2 inserts in this side, and I got these from Amazon. This is a 1/4 inch by 20 wood insert, and so I drilled a hole. This threads in there, and I'll go over that a little later in the video. And then I can bolt these 2 together. So let me show you how that works. Alright, this is very simple. These are 1/4 inch bolts with washers, and they just, if I can get it together right, if I can get the right angle, these will screw right into this. These are 1.5 inch bolts. Common hardware at Home Depot or any hardware store. and they screw in to these inserts, which are threaded into the wood. You wouldn't have to do this. You could use a bolt and a nut and washer on the other side also. I just thought I would have less hardware to keep track of in the field if these were inserted into the wood. And they're reasonably cheap. I paid $10 for 40 of these on Amazon, so nothing too terribly expensive. And that's it. Tighten that up and it's pretty darn solid. Alright, this is what the first truss looks like bolted in place. And I've already gotten the next 4 mounts in place. These are 5-inch. These are 5-inch 2x4s, screwed from the bottom with 3.5-inch screws. So, and I'm able to bolt the uprights to those. And I've done 3 of them, and I'm gonna go ahead and set this up on a tripod and record the last one that I drill out and put the inserts in, so everybody can get an idea of the process and how easy it is. Alright, so I'm just taking this upright, just going to go ahead and mount it up, or clamp it up to the, if I can get a hold of this clamp. And I'm not worried about everything being perfectly square or plumb. I'm not measuring the holes to any certain place, I'm just eyeballing it. Step up my drill bit 1 notch. On the very first one I did, I went ahead and tried to drill it in only as far as it needed to be. After that, I went ahead and just drilled all the way through, so I didn't have to waste the time on it. And I've just taken this and cleaned them up just a bit. Alright, now I'm just going to take these inserts and screw them in. This Allen wrench came with the parts. I don't know what size it is. Now that everything's drilled out, it's just a matter of putting some 1/4 inch bolts in. Now these front holes, these are oversized for these 1/4 inch bolts. This is the size for the insert, and I did it that way. It's easier, but also this extra wiggle room on the front here makes it easier to line these inserts up. If it's a 1/4 inch hole that fits the bolt, it's a lot more difficult to line up and to bolt them in. And with the washers on there, I can line these up and tighten them up, and everything is as solid as can be. That's how easy it is, and this whole thing is reasonably solid. You can shake the truck with it. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and build the top parts of these in place, and that is going to have to wait because right now I got to tear this whole thing apart and get to work. I didn't take the time to make these pretty or perfect. In fact, did a little boo-boo on this one. Alright guys, I'm going to try to wrap this up today before work. I've had this project on the back burner for a little while, a couple weeks now, so try to get it done today before work, at least the wooden structure part of this, and I'm going to call that part 1, I think, and then start working on the rest of it. So I'm going to make it a video series more than just one video. I've already gotten I don't know, a little bit long on this video, so I'm also having trouble recording with my camera, so I'm probably going to keep looking back at the camera to check and make sure that the little light is still blinking, because I've recorded this segment 3 times now, and this will be my 4th. So okay, let's look at what we've done. I went ahead and built the second support in place, and yeah, it's still blinking. I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and run through the process for the last one. Now, each of these have slightly different dimensions. That's why I'm just building them in place, because my bed rails are not parallel or even straight or flat. So, but it's all very forgiving. There's nothing precise going on here. So this is how I did this. I cut this at 22.5 degrees, both pieces, just like the other ones. And I cut these longer than they needed to be. And that way I could just put it in place. Now what I did is I cut out the little plywood supports that bolt these together, and I clamped one of them up there, and I think the camera is picking up that. So it's clamped up there. That's just to keep it in place while I center this. So I'm just throwing this up here. I'm going to try not to let it fall on my head, and centering this up as best as I can. Alright, like I said, there's nothing precise going on here. After that, just just going to go ahead and mark it with a straight edge and a pencil. I've already done this because I've recorded this 3 times, but very simple. Just line up the edge of this 2x4 straight up and down and mark it. Same on the other side. No big deal. Now that mark is going to be roughly 22.5 degrees. Just like every single cut on here. Now I'm just going to make a cut. Alright, a little bit of eye protection. Set this at 22.5 degrees. There it is. That's going to roughly line up with my mark. And I don't think Alright, we'll bolt it back together again. Alright. Looks like it's staying up there pretty good. It's a little worried it might fall on my head. Would have been a little easier if I'd have brought a step stool out here. Alright, so my camera died once again. Just stopped. But I think you got enough footage on that to understand the process of how I did this. It's very simple. It's all very easy. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up, call this part 1. But before I do, I wanted to go over one more thing that I did wrong. And that was when I went out early on and I bought the hardware to fit these inserts I went ahead and I thought galvanized bolts would be better in the elements and if they got wet or whatever. But the galvanized bolts, because of the coating, did not fit these inserts. So, in fact, I broke a bolt trying to force them to go in there. But I have a little cheap tap and die set, so I was able to find a 1/4 inch die, and I just clamped it into my vise and forced these through the die to sort of recut the threads and take the galvanizing off. So if I hadn't had that tool, I would have probably had to go buy new bolts. When I went back to buy the shorter bolts, I went ahead and got regular 1.5 inch, 1/4 inch bolts for the tops, for the peak. I bought these shorter bolts, and they fit just fine. So just lesson learned, something I wanted to share with you. The galvanizing causes the threads to not fit these inserts. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. If you guys watched this, thank you very much. I will see you again on part 2.